To learn more about Olvidados, a Mexican American Corrido by Elisa Gonzales, music arrangement and composition by Moises Vázquez, watch this video. Elisa reached out to me asking if I would be interested in working, collaborating, and devising with her on this particular project. And how I know Elisa Gonzales is actually through her father. In fact, when Elisa came out to work with us in this past summer in 2021, that was the first time I actually met her in person. We've known each other through her father. Her father is Ron Gonzales, who used to be an editor at OC Register. And when Breath of Fire was in full production swing, we launched our space and our seasons, like starting in 2007 when we were in downtown Santa Ana off of Fifth Street, neighboring El Centro Cultural de Mexico, who helped us get our space down the road. Anyhow, he had come out, he wrote about us, he would send reporters to cover our stuff, and he would tell me about how he had this young daughter who was interested in the arts, and then every time he would bring her up, he'd tell me like the next step and what she was doing. And then now she's a professor, associate professor at the University of Massachusetts, Amherst, who focuses on voice work. But she's also an amazing performer in her own right. She's performed in professional theater companies all over the country, and then now she's a professor there at UMass Amherst. And so this project, when she reached out to me, was also a partnership between Breath of Fire Latina Theater Ensemble, the organization that I am the founding artistic director, and University of Massachusetts Theater Department, College of the Arts. And so it's been really, really exciting. We've been working mostly online, and we received a network ensemble Net 10 virtual grant to continue our work, to allow some of our ensemble members to work on this until we get into a physical space. Coming 2022, March, April, where this will be a workshop production at the university. So really, really excited. And we are scheduled to have our first virtual reading this coming next week, October 6th. The story is about stories about the repatriated Mexican Americans during the 1930s, during the Great Depression. Many immigrants were scapegoated, and many of the people that were scapegoated were also citizens. Like, they were naturally born here, they had lived here, they had, their relationship to Mexico or other countries were through their parents or the person who had come over, but they themselves were not necessarily, that was not their home. Their home was here, but they were forced and encouraged in many things, let's get rid of them, to go back to Mexico. I mean, how could you go back to Mexico if that isn't even your home? Your home is here. And many children who were citizens were then forced back with their families and had no relationship. And there was some people had they had their whole lives here. They had purchased, homes, businesses. I mean, they had lived here for some time and in some generations, and again, forced to Mexico. So it was great to, it's unfortunately something that we keep repeating in our history, right? When we hit an economic downfall, we often look to ways to blame, and definitely our immigrant community has seen so many accusations of they're the reasons why we are failing economically. So that's one of the things, and also it rooted in a Latinx experience. We are, after all, a Latina theater ensemble, and we incubate stories to help develop them for stage underrepresented or voices that have historically been excluded from the stage. So we're really excited. We were really excited to support Elisa Gonzales, and the story is rooted in her own family. So it focuses on her great grandmother and her grandmother, who found themselves in San Pedro, and her grandmother, as a young girl, with her mother, left and were forced out and took the train. And so we sort of followed their journey in the story and through corridos, which is a traditional way of telling stories in the Mexican culture. But also, we've adapted other forms of music to tell the story. And our composer and collaborator is Moises Vázquez, who's also from Santa Ana community and also part of Breath of Fire Ensemble as well. So we were really excited to work with Moises, and I think I've worked with Moises on so many projects, and his ability to listen to the writer, to the group, to generate the music that then we use to tell with the associate with the lyrics has been really exciting. I mean, I think in one night, 3 songs were generated while we were in person devising. But so that was, one, it fell under our mission, our vision, the story, those who were involved, and that the story is very close to home. This took place all over the country, but the focus is really here in Southern California. And so to be able to take a story again that has been historically excluded is important to the work that we do. When I was approached by Lisa, like, hey, would you and Breath of Fire work on this? And of course, I then I'm a little bit of a dramaturg, a little bit of a director, but generally, or as we move forward, I am the director of this play. And so we first had to, she had to write, right? She had to write some drafts. We had conversations all online through email, reading the pages, and then of course with Moises, bringing him in when there was more work that could be looked at. And then before we were all in person, we had a virtual reading, an in-house reading through Breath of Fire to sort of look at and listen to that draft. And that was really, really exciting. And what was really great is, so this was originally scheduled to be a one-person show. But what I wanted to make sure that our playwright, so Elisa is not only the playwright, but also the performer, but I wanted her to really just worry about the writing and focus on that. So what we did is we brought in ensemble members. We had Angela, Stella, Chanel, Darlene, another new ensemble, Sabrina Lopez, and then a little junior ensemble member, Lali Sanchez, who is our youngest little ensemble member, an amazing writer in her own right. Anyway, so we without any rehearsal, and they had been given the script ahead of time. We just read it, and then some of the music was played through Moises online, because of the way Zoom is and how it cancels it out. But it ended up being a phenomenal Zoom reading. It was beautiful. And then we were scheduled to bring her out as part of our summer residency to continue to devise the work. And we were trying to figure out whether or not we could do this live, and if so, where we could, because we were in the pandemic still, right? Trying to keep people safe. And we ended up being able to have it hosted at Alta Baja Market. Now, what's beautiful about Alta Baja is that we love Alta Baja Market in downtown Santa Ana, but the last time we had an in-person presentation for the stage was at Alta Baja before the pandemic. So it was it was a bit emotional to come back and to have us hosted there by the lovely Alta Baja Delilah Snell. And so that was really wonderful, and it was really, really well received. We required everyone who wanted to come see it that they had to be masked, our audience, and there was no one ever argued it. They were just there to be so supportive. So we had some time here in Santa Ana, and I literally opened up my backyard for us to devise with not only Moises and Elisa, but also our ensemble. So having those actors, part of that component to help you listen to the words, help you understand what's not working or what could work, So that was really, really exciting. And it was really, one of the songs that was written in one night was a lullaby. And it was called Pablito's Lullaby. And what's not really talked about when we think about repatriation is the impact that it had put upon many of those who left, and including dying. There were many children who died as a result because of how treacherous this traveling was, how like getting like a cold became like deadly. And both and again, the two main characters that we were talking about, the great grandmother of our playwright and grandmother, um, our Celia, the young daughter who is the grandmother to our playwright, she loses her little brother, Pablito. And so it so happened that the night that this song was written was the anniversary of his passing. And it was literally within the 2 months that they had traveled from San Pedro to their place in Mexico. And how tragic that is, like to have not only been displaced, but you experience the loss of a child, and children at the end of it end up suffering. I mean, when we think about this pandemic, who's going to suffer? When we think about um, ejecting people, who's going to suffer? The children, the most vulnerable. The most vulnerable are always at who end up getting the brunt of it. But anyway, but it was just, it felt so powerful and mystical and surreal and tragic, but also very beautiful in some ways. So we wrote this song, and it felt like Pablo was with us that night. We were all outside, the stars were aligned, or there was something in the air that it almost felt like he gave us his blessing. And it was very, again, very emotional. I mean, you could read into it with what you wanted to or what, but as an ensemble of all of us working together and singing this song, it was like, oh, you know. And those are things that like you don't get to do on Zoom. So and so by putting that together, we then scheduled our in-person presentation. It was a heightened reading with playing all the music that we had at that point. And then we asked our audience, we had online surveys to get their feedback. And so then we went to a next draft. And then once that was wrapped up, we wrapped up our residency with Elisa. And Elisa also, while she was here, taught an amazing voice workshop for our ensemble members. So that was also like one of the bonuses. And but anyway, so the work is still in a process, right? It has gone through some transformations. It's added. There's more music added as well. And so because of her being in Massachusetts and me being in California, we've had to continue to work together virtually until we're in person again. So that's part of this process has been mostly online and some of it in person. And ultimately, at our time with UMass is to again be in person and put it up on its feet. And for that particular draft, it will become a one-woman show supported by an ensemble. And so we will be casting students from the university there to support. We're looking to cast 4 to 5 young female actors, and then of course have a band on stage with us while we are performing this. I have 2 weeks to put this together, so we are still figuring that out. And of course, beautifully designed and supported by the theater department. So ongoing production meetings with our designers who are students and faculty member who are mentoring them as well. And then of course the dramaturg that's associated, Priscilla Maria Page, who's become our dramaturg in this next leg of our process. So we're having a virtual reading on with the university, and then what's nice is again we've gotten this Net 10 Network Theater Ensembles a grant to help Breath of Fire continue to participate, which has been really, really great. But yeah, it'll be a reading on Wednesday, October 6th. And we will be using actors from the university. And then I think Priscilla and myself may be stepping in for other characters. And our hope is that I can't remember if Elisa will be reading, but I always stress to her like if you still need your writer's hat on, listen. And I believe she won't be reading with us. I think she wants to listen, which I think is important. And then the following day, October 7th, we will have a conversation of, well, they'll be in person, but I'll be brought in virtually to talk about the work that we've been doing, and like I've been telling you. And it's part of the Latinx Heritage Celebration Month there for the UMass. So Breath of Fire is involved with the university to co-host these activities, which has been really, really exciting. It's we've developed work with other entities, and it's exciting because of the pandemic. I mean, when I would never wish this again on anybody, but out of the pandemic came some interesting and creative opportunities. And one of them is partnering with the university all the way on the other end of our country, right? And to be able to look at other ways to tell story and devise has been really exciting, And so we're looking forward to ultimately coming together and presenting it at the university come this next spring. But also we are looking to ways to tour it here in Southern California. I think, if anything, like an opportunity to hear stories that they may have not have heard. I know that this is something new to the university and the student body, so I hope that we get their ears and eyes to participate, to listen. I'd love to hear their feedback as well. I think anytime you have a reading, hearing thoughts about what this work sort of meant to them, or how they took it, or what it is that they may have questions, or things that have popped up for them by listening and hearing as an audience, right? I'm always curious to hear our audience, and because I mean, I'm a director and I love watching the audience watch the show, but I don't always get that through Zoom. So getting people's feedback is the closest thing I can get to hear what people have to say about what it is that we're trying to present. And for me, it's always great to hear what people have to say. Whether or not you agree with it or not, it's just interesting to hear how stories resonate, or how people are like, I've never heard this before. How is it that I don't know this? And it's like, because historically, stories like this have been excluded. So creating a space and shining light on something that is part of our history, and we need to own it, will help us. I mean, the idea is hope we don't replicate and keep this, keep perpetuating traumas on communities. It would be nice not to always have to stage our traumas, but until they stop, we have to tell our stories. And whether or not we should be able to tell our stories for entertainment, for celebration, to acknowledge that we exist and that we also are just as human as anyone else. I would really hope that it goes beyond our production at the University of Massachusetts, that it does have a want, a desire for our tour, that we find a partner or partners to fully realize this production. See, Breath of Fire had when it reemerged in 2015, it focused on being an incubating space. So we are not necessarily a producing house, nor do we claim to be at this point. I mean, our focus is again in process over product. Although there are things that we would love to move on and see fully mounted, there's no way we could do it by ourselves. And our hope is to find partners who would like to help support this and see this through. And funding, of course. I mean, money is essential to see this work done. And so that it has a life of its own. I mean, we are also curious about other ways of telling story, because we've been working virtually. Like, there's an opportunity that this could be a radio play. This could be an interesting podcast. I love Tiny Desk at NPR. Like, I love, because there's so much music in this. And, again, the work between Moises and Elisa, there's a beautiful songbook out of this. There's just so much beautiful music. And it's also really funny at some points, It does use the style of the corrido, which is about telling you a story and is there a lesson to be learned, or let me tell you something, so corrido is very much rooted in story, and whether you gain something out of it, or you're kind of warned, or you're told of what happened which you didn't know, it's a natural fit in the work that we are doing. And I hope that we can continue to expand our audience and the opportunities that this play could shine on, like that it has a life outside of our process and our project. And maybe we aren't always the one to produce it, right? That it gets picked up and produced by even a larger entity. That's exciting, when you watch your birds take flight and soar. My name is Sara Guerrero, and I'm the founding artistic director of Breath of Fire Latina Theater Ensemble. I'm also the director of Olvidados, a Mexican American Corrido by Elisa Gonzales, and music composed by Moises Vázquez. We are so excited to host this virtual reading with the University of Massachusetts Amherst. It is October 6th at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Visit our website at breathoffire.org if you would love to listen in on the reading or learn more about Breath of Fire's ongoing online events. We have a number of writing workshops, all virtual. Again, to learn more about Breath of Fire, visit our website at breathoffire.org. And also just know that we operate as a volunteer-based organization. So we appreciate any donation. We are a 501c3 and gladly accept any tax-deductible donation from you. Again, visit www.breathoffire.org. Thank you so much and have a wonderful and stay safe day.